Hello, and welcome to another edition of Barça Fan Voice. After 3 long months, we finally have some football to talk about as Barça return to action with a 4-0 win at Mallorca. Today I'll be looking back at the Mallorca game, and I'll also be previewing tomorrow's match with Leganes at Camp Nou, the first match at the stadium since a 1-0 win over Real Sociedad on March the 7th. But first, let's look back at that Mallorca game. I think the first sensations were generally very good. I don't think we could expect the team to be at 100% straight away, but a very competent performance and an excellent result. Barça dominated from the very beginning, scoring in the second minute when Arturo Vidal headed in from Jordi Alba's cross. As I said in my preview, we would need to use the wings as Mallorca play a narrow 4-4-2. The width didn't come from Barca's forwards, but from the fullbacks Sergio Roberto and Jordi Alba. After Alba set up the first goal, Sergio Roberto twice got forward to create chances. First for Braithwaite, who shot wide, and then shortly after for Messi, whose effort went just wide and Griezmann was very close to converting it. Mallorca looked stunned by the early goal. But after about 20 minutes they began to come into the game, with the Japanese Take Kubo looking their best player. He came close to equalising for Mallorca after a fantastic run inside from the right and a cracking left foot shot, but Ter Stegen was equal to it with a diving save to his right. For a while it looked like Mallorca might make a game of it, but Barca scored a second before half time after Jordi Alba again got forward. Frankie de Jong and Messi knocked it on, the ball came to Braithwaite and he thumped it high into the goal for his first goal for the club. With the score at 2-0, the game was more or less over. Barca looked to control the situation, Sergio Roberto didn't push forward quite so much, and with the substitutes, Rakitic coming off for Vidal at half-time, with Vidal had got a yellow card, Quique Setien showed he's more of a pragmatist than he'd like to admit. Mallorca had 2 or 3 efforts from distance, a header wide from Budimir at the end of the first half, and a couple of shots wide, but the result never really looked in danger. We saw Luis Suarez return to the team, coming on for just over 30 minutes. He didn't look quite as sharp as he might be, missing one good chance from Messi's cross, which Ronald Araujo might have scored at the far post, but he hit the post. And near the end, Barca wrapped things up as Mallorca tied. Jordi Alba got forward to score the third, and in injury time, Leo Messi got forward and finally got his goal, to make the final score a slightly flattering 4-0. I think there were quite a few positives to take from the game. Messi seemed sharp, close to his best, which is probably the most important news. And it was also a very positive performance from Jordi Alba, who got involved in 3 of the 4 goals. And of course we had a decent performance from Ronald Araujo in defence alongside Gerard Piqué. He looked comfortable on the ball, he looked strong, pretty fast. If I wanted to be critical, perhaps he might have got a bit closer to Kubo, when Kubo cut inside and shot after 25 minutes more or less. And perhaps he might have done better with the chance that he hit against the post. But all in all, a pretty good performance. And the other big positive, of course, was Martin Braithwaite getting a goal, his first goal for the club. He looked lively, he came very close to getting a second goal in the second half. A great ball from Messi, turned past the defender, one-on-one with the goalkeeper. His shot was on target, but the keeper just managed to get his foot to it and pushed it wide. We saw decent performances from Ter Stegen in goal and Frankie de Jong in midfield, though Ter Stegen was guilty of coming for a corner and missing his punch in the second half, which might have cost us a goal, and Frankie de Jong, while putting in a decent performance, is still not quite the player we all think he can become. Negatives to take from the game? Well, we had a yellow card for Jordi Alba, which will see him miss tomorrow's game with Leganes, while overall perhaps the midfield was a little bit disappointing in the creativity department, but it was always going to be difficult against Mallorca's compact 4-4-2 to play through the middle. And perhaps the biggest negative was again Antoine Griezmann, who really didn't get very involved in the game and was substituted after 57 minutes for Luis Suarez. It's difficult to know what's going to happen with Griezmann. And he's such a good player, but he's just not fitting in at the moment. I think we need to be patient. Perhaps next season he'll fit in better. He's certainly got the class. But at the moment there's a debate going on whether he should play or whether Braithwaite should play now that Luis Suarez is back. However, I'm sure with so many games coming now quick and fast, there'll be plenty of rotations and they'll both get their chances. And they'll often be substituted off one for the other. Other talking points to take from the game? Well, of course, we had the atmosphere with no fans and the artificial sound. And to be fair, as I said after the Sevilla game, it's all a bit strange and a little bit artificial. And of course, it seems very strange to see the substitutes wearing masks. I'm not sure whether this is really necessary, given all the precautions that are already taken, but it's just a reminder of the times that we're living in. The other talking point, of course, are the 5 substitutions, which, well, it does change things quite a lot. It makes it seem a little bit more like a friendly game, but I can understand that in the interest of keeping players fit, it's probably a good idea. It does make it slightly more difficult to follow the game with so many substitutes, but hopefully it's just a measure for the remainder of this season. And finally, of course, we had a pitch invasion, which was rather strange. One fan running on the pitch, trying to get a selfie with Leo Messi. I understand he climbed over a 2-metre wall to get into the stadium at some point during the first half, and he gradually went down to the side of the pitch, jumped on, caught everybody by surprise, and as I said, he wanted to get a selfie with Leo Messi. He came first to Jordi Alba, got a selfie with Jordi Alba. Before he could get the selfie with Messi, he was jumped on by the security guards. And it seems that they've made him delete the photo he took of himself with Jordi Alba, which seems a bit harsh. And I imagine he's going to get a fine for doing it. But hey, with all the security measures going on for the COVID-19 story, well, I suppose an example will have to be made of him. The 3 points put Barca on 61 points after 28 games, but Real Madrid's 3-1 win against Eibar yesterday means the gap at the top of the Liga remains at 2 points, which makes tomorrow's game with Leganes even more important. It's a must-win. Leganes, of course, are in big trouble in the relegation zone on just 23 points. It means they're equal bottom with Espanyol at the moment. Coach Javier Aguirre usually uses a 4-4-2 system, but when Leganes visited Camp Nou for the Copa del Rey game in January, Leganes played a 5-4-1 with Martin Braithwaite up front on his own, and Barca ran out 5-0 winners. In that game, we saw Leganes' 5-4-1 system, which plays very high, and it's also important to point out that Leganes like to press, they like to push up the pitch, which may leave Barca a chance to play through them. And I think for this reason we may see Arthur Melo in the starting lineup. Leganes, as I said, are in trouble. On Saturday they lost at home 2-1 to Valladolid, and they looked a bit of a disaster in defence. Just as Barca took an early lead against Mallorca in the second minute, Leganes conceded a goal after just 2 minutes, after a dreadful cock-up between their defender Chidozie Awaziem, who headed the ball past his goalkeeper Cuellar, allowing the Valladolid forward to score into an open goal. The second Valladolid goal came after another cock-up, where Leganes left far too much space at the far post, and Valladolid took a 2-0 lead. Leganes got a consolation goal, a late penalty, but it really wasn't a very good performance. And if the Copa del Rey game is anything to go by, I imagine we'll get a big win for Barca once again. However, we should be cautious. Leganes have only won one game away from home this season, and it's the last game they played away from home before the big stoppage, when they won 2-1 at Villarreal. But in total, they've only taken 8 points away from home all season, and I don't think they're going to add to this tomorrow night. I think we'll see some changes to Barca's team. Jordi Alba's suspended, so we'll see Junior Firpo come in at left back, and Clement Lenglet will also return to the team after suspension, which means that Ronald Araujo will be back on the substitute bench. I also wouldn't be surprised if we see Semedo in for Sergio Roberto at right back to keep the rotations going. In midfield, as I said, I think Arthur Melo will get a place. Perhaps we could see Frankie de Jong rested with the game against Sevilla coming up on Friday, but it's difficult to tell, but I'll go with the midfield of Busquets, Vidal and Arthur Melo. Up front, I know there's a lot of debate about whether Martin Braithwaite should get a game. However, I think Griezmann was taken off against Mallorca partly to give him a rest. I think he'll start again against Leganes. And we'll see Luis Suarez start as well, so we'll be back to our Messi, Griezmann, Luis Suarez front three, which is excellent news. Hopefully they can start clicking and banging in the goals. I'll be very surprised if we don't see goals tomorrow. Leganes will have to improve vastly on their last performance if they're going to get anything from this game. I think I'll be optimistic for this one and go for a very big win. I'll go for a 6-0. I know it's optimistic, but Leganes look very poor against Villarreal. Hopefully we can take advantage of that and enjoy a goal fest. I'll be back on Wednesday to analyse the Leganes game. Until then, Biscal Barça, bye for now.